broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege.
What up? This your boy Chris Cross checking in. This is the TCMMA podcast. And we're here because UFC 305 is up next. And you know, of all the podcasts we do each month, the predictions for the pay-per-view is by far my favorite podcast. I love getting into the predictions. Of course, we love the pay-per-view on Saturday nights. We love UFC every Saturday night, but the pay-per-view, in this case, UFC 305 is the number one reason that we're into the sport, right? This is the card each month that you cannot wait to see. And this month, it's not going to let us down at all. We got Adesanya versus Du Plessis, or Du Plessis versus Adesanya, however you want to say it. And right now, the middleweight division is like a merry-go-round. Will that continue? We're going to find out this Saturday night. If Du Plessis can win this fight and take down Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya, then he pretty much solidifies himself as the champ. If Adesanya can take him down, then we got a merry-go-round between Du Plessis, Sean Strickland, and Adesanya. And then, of course, you still got Hamza Chimaev coming up. If he can beat Robert Whittaker, that's a new guy that will be on that merry-go-round, if you will. All right, so that's what's at stake this Saturday night. You also got guys like Kai Kara-France fighting. You got Mateusz Gamrot fighting. You got Tai Tuivasa fighting. Heavyweight division fight. So a lot in store for this Saturday night. So, you know, we're excited. And here's just we didn't get to do the reaction shows we normally do, but here's just kind of how it looked this past weekend to kind of set you up for where we're at. 6-4 this past weekend. We finished with the final 4 fights. We needed that to have a winning night, and man, it came through with Gutierrez, Barlow, Chepe Mariscal, who looks great, and Sergey Spivak. Many of you told me he's going down again, but I said no. Marcin Tybura is too old. Spivak can get the submission, and he did. So we're 16-11 in the main event now. What a turnaround on a year. We love it. 198 and 132 overall, and we're rolling here in the second half of the year. Make no mistake about it. We are absolutely rolling. So that's how things look going into UFC 305. But before we get to 305, a lot of things happening in the world, right? The Olympics just ended today, and man, what a break from politics, right? Where the country's always divided. You got Trump, Kamala Harris, whatever. Right, everyone's at each other. Then the Olympics come on, and it's like Team USA, full throttle. We're all together because now we have opponents, right? We have opponents of America. You got China, you got Japan, you got France, the host country, all these, and it went down. And at the end of the day, China 40 gold medals, America 40 gold medals. You heard that right. So we basically tied China. Now, if you want to have a tiebreaker, we had more. You know, a lot more silver and bronze. So overall, we had more medals. But as far as the gold, man, it was equal. It was even. And that's a wild indication that China's catching up to us, man. I don't even know what they won gold medals in, right? I'm watching basketball. I'm watching track and field. I'm watching soccer, right? Where's China? But they're winning in different places that we may not really see too much of. Not the big sports, right? But if you win a fencing competition, right, in one weight class or however they do it, and you win the soccer gold medal, that's equal. It's 1-1, right? So, you know, it doesn't really seem fair in that way where a team sport is equal. Like if if you're in soccer and you got 11 people and you win the gold medal, that should be 11 gold medals, but you only get credit for one, right? Some guy could do a dive off the top, and win one event. And that's one gold medal equal to the basketball gold medal, right? All that stuff. Now in track and field, we absolutely dominated. And you know me, I'm a track and field coach. I'm highly into track and field. USA won like 11 of the 24, 25 possible gold medals. We won those events, 11 of them in track and field. And it always brings us back at the end. And we win basketball back to back. We win women's soccer. I mean, so it's just a great finale to the Olympics. We came roaring back as we always do, but we're used to winning. And this time we tied in terms of gold medals. Now, the reason I wanted to get into the Olympics too is Japan did phenomenal in wrestling. And is that an indication to come that maybe in the future we're going to have more Japan fighters in MMA? That's what I really want to know, right? Are we going to have more Japan fighters in the MMA, in the UFC? Because right now they're dominating in wrestling. And we've seen wrestlers come over to MMA in the past, haven't we? So it's very possible Japan is coming. You know, if you can wrestle, now you just got to get your striking together. Now you got to get some grappling ability and find ways to finish people. And it just seems to me Japan is on the come up. Make no mistake about it. Now, as we jump into the predictions for UFC 305, we usually like to begin in Fight 7. Because Fight 7 is where things really heat up, right? And in Fight 7 here, we'll work our way to Fight 1. You got Josh Kulabayo, 11-3, taking on Ricardo Ramos, 16-6. This is Australia versus Brazil. And once you get into the late prelims and into the main card, you're going to see this a lot throughout the night. I think there's, let me scroll through here real quick. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, multiple fights where it's Australia versus Brazil. I'm seeing 5, potentially, yeah, it looks like 4 or 5 fights, Australia versus Brazil. But in this first one, you got Josh Kulabayo versus Ricardo Ramos. So let's jump into that prediction right now. In the featherweight division at UFC 305, you got your boy Josh Kulabayo coming in 11-3, taking on Ricardo Ramos out of Brazil, who comes in at 16-6. This is Australia versus Brazil. Now Kulabayo 1 inch taller, 5'10". He's 30. Ramos 29. Kulabayo 1 inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Both guys land exactly 3.2 significant strikes per minute. But the Brazilian Ramos lands 1 takedown per round. So what's Kulabayo's takedown defense? 67%. That's right about average, which leads me to believe Ramos is getting some takedowns in his fight. Kulabayo coming off back-to-back losses, a tough one to Lerone Murphy. That's a good fighter by unanimous decision. And then Danny Silva, he lost to by split decision. So he led 87-45 in significant strikes, but gave up 4 takedowns. And that's what Ramos is going to be looking to do here. Ramos coming off back-to-back losses, a tough one to Julian Juicy J. Erosa by submission. He was also submitted by Charles Jourdain. So a guy that can land takedowns is getting submitted. In both of those fights, he had 4 takedowns combined, but the takedowns got reversed on him. So keep that in mind. I don't know if Kulabayo will do that or not, but it's possible. He did beat Danny Chavez by KO. So this is a tough fight, man, to predict. The thing with Kulabayo is he was on a 3-fight win streak over Nauer Beek, Sungwoo Choi, and Melsik Bagdasaryan. So if that guy shows up, he's got a good chance to win. And you know me, a lot of times if it's close, I go with the Brazilian, but I think Kulabayo is going to get the job done here. You know, it's just the intangibles. He's just going to find a way to win. You look at his numbers and you're like, 3 significant strikes per minute, no takedowns. How does he win any fight? But he won 3 in a row against 3 solid fighters. So I'm looking for that Kulabayo to show up. At one point, you know, he was like 8-9-1, suffered a few losses. So I'm looking for the old Kulabayo to show up. I think he's learned his lesson. He's getting better in the gym, things of that nature. So in my opinion, Kulabayo wins. Hard to say how, but likely by decision to move to 12-3, featherweight division, UFC 305. And you see that sometimes when guys come into the UFC, they struggle at first, right? Or what they'll do is they'll come in and win a few, then they'll get up the ladder, change levels, lose a few before they really hit their stride. And I think Kulabayo is about to hit his stride. I'm not saying he's going to win a title or anything like that, but I just get the feeling that Kulabayo is about to hit his stride, and I have no problems predicting him to win this fight at all. Right? I mean, the striking is going to be very even here. the Brazilian is certainly going to land takedowns. And as I said in the prediction, you know, it's hard to look at Koulibaly's numbers and say he's going to win, and then you look at his resume and it's like, okay, he's winning, right? He finds ways to win. He might be down in the numbers and get a finish, but Koulibaly finds ways to win. So that's very important when picking fights. And we suffer some losses here and there, but a lot of times we're right 60 to 70% of the time because you got to find an angle. And I don't often go against Brazilians, but in this one I got to go against Ricardo Ramos and take Josh Koulibaly, and hopefully he can get the finish. That's what we're hoping happens for sure. Now, as we work our way up into fight 6, is right now UFC sometimes shifts the card around in the lead up, but right now you got Junior Tafa versus Walter Walker in the heavyweight division. And who doesn't like a heavyweight division to lead us into the pay-per-view? So let's get into that prediction right now. In the heavyweight division at UFC 305, you got Junior Tafa taking on Walter Walker. This is Australia versus Brazil, pretty much a toss-up fight. Now, Walker's a tall guy. The Brazilian is 6'6", 3 inches taller than Tafa. He's 26, Tafa's 27, so both guys are still young. Walker, 6-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Both guys haven't been very active so far, of course, in limited fights, right? So Walker, 2.2 significant strikes per minute. Junior Tafa, 1.8. But Walker can land takedowns. In fact, 4 takedowns per 3 rounds. So he's landed more than 1 takedown per round. But Tafa, 81% takedown defense. He did lose to Marcos Rogério de Lima. Took that fight on short notice. Lost by 2nd round KO. But before that, he beat Parker Porter by 1st round KO and lost to Muhammad Usman by unanimous decision. Despite holding Usman to 7 significant strikes, he still managed to lose that fight by giving up 2 takedowns. So that's going to be the problem here, is giving up the takedowns. Now, Walker hasn't really been impressive. I mean, we just seen him in one UFC fight against Lucchesi Brzezinski. He got dominated on the feet, 58-33 in significant strikes, but had 4 takedowns. So that's kind of, you know, when you're looking at this fight, if you look and you see Justin Tafa, you know, landing 4, 5, 6 significant strikes per minute, maybe he's got an opportunity to win this fight. And it's not to say he can't land a big KO and win the fight. But I got to go with the Brazilian here because the guy's landing more than 1 takedown per round. And even though Junior Tafa stuffs the takedowns, you're going up against a big Brazilian who's going to try to take you down. That's going to be his goal. And I believe he takes Junior Tafa down 3, 4, 5 times in this fight and gets the victory. It's not going to be an exciting fight, even though it's a heavyweight division fight, just simply because these guys aren't big-time strikers. But anything is possible. In my opinion, Walker wins via decision to move to 12-1 here, heavyweight division, UFC 305. Yeah, and that's a fight that can kind of go either way. I mean, you know, you don't have a lot to go off of other than the fact that Walker is more experienced. He's 12 fights in. He's 11-1. He's Brazilian. When it's close, I'm going with the Brazilian. If I'm unsure, like in this fight, it's a toss-up, I'm going with the Brazilian. I don't care that it's in Australia. It doesn't matter to me that Tafa's at home. It doesn't matter that he's walking out and the crowd's going to be pumped up. When fights are even or they're close, Brazilians find ways to win, and I've thrived off that in terms of the predictions up to this point, and there's no reason to switch paths now. Second guess yourself. Just no reason. Now, as we work our way up into the main card, things get real interesting in Fight 5. Because you got Li Jingliang, right? A guy who once fought Hamza, got beat in like 2 minutes by submission. But when guys fight Hamza, they tend to get better after the fact, and Jingliang has. Right? He takes on Carlos Prates, who's a good fighter in his own right. So this fight is very interesting, a great fight to kick off the pay-per-view. I expect fireworks here. Let's get into it right now. In the welterweight division at UFC 305, you got Li Jingliang taking on Carlos Prates. Big fight here. Li Jingliang, 19-8. Carlos Prates, 19-6. China versus Brazil. Prates 1 inch taller at 6'1", compared to the 6-foot Li Jingliang. Jing Liang's starting to creep up there in age now. He's 36 years old. Pratis 30. Pratis 6-inch reach advantage. He's a switch stance fighter. Jing Liang fights right-handed. In terms of significant strikes per minute, they're both just over 4 significant strikes per minute, so no angle there. Pratis isn't worried about takedowns. Li Jingliang lands like one every other round, or every 3 rounds, excuse me. So that's his average. Now, Li Jingliang, aka the Leech, 60% takedown defense, coming off a loss to D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez by split decision, close fight, beat Muslim Salikov by KO in the second round, and before that he lost to Hamza Chimaev. And you already know how I feel when guys fight Hamza, they tend to look much better after the fact. So I was surprised that Jingliang lost to D-Rod. Carlos Prates, aka the Nightmare, 80% takedown defense, hasn't lost yet in the UFC, won at the Contender Series, came in and beat Trevin Giles by KO, Charles Radke by KO. So he's kind of proven his worth in a sense that he can come in and finish people. So this is going to be a much closer fight than the odds makers have it. They have it Pratis at over 2-1. I'd say instead of 2-1, it should be more like 120, 130, right? Not quite 2-1, much less than that. But the bottom line is Pratis is still going to win this fight. It's going to be close. It might even be a split decision, but I believe Pratis wins this fight by decision. He's going to land more significant strikes despite the numbers. He'll defend takedowns well enough. He's from Brazil, so he's got a takedown game, even though he hasn't had to use it yet because, his numbers are low because he came into the UFC and KO'd both opponents. So what do you need takedowns for, right? Pratis looking for his 20th MMA victory as a professional. I believe he gets it here, in my opinion. He'll do it, likely by decision. Welterweight division, UFC 305. Yeah, and that was a tough one because I'd like to come in and tell you that Li Jingliang is going to get the job done, that the Leech can do it. But again, you're facing off against a Brazilian, and he's favored, right? So you look for an angle. The one angle is the Leech is a solid striker. He could land a KO. He also lands more takedowns. I mean, the numbers would indicate that he's got a solid shot here, but Pratis is right in the prime. So this is a guy that whatever you saw last fight, he's going to be better. And whatever you see this fight, he's going to be even better in the next fight. And this is going to continue for the next, 3 to 5 fights until he creeps up into that 33 to 35 range, depending on how active he is. But you got to go with Carlos Prates here to get the job done. Now in fight 4, man, things heat up quickly, and it just gets better as you get to the top. You got Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa, right? The Shui. I know you guys know about that. Taking on Jairzinho Rosenstrike, a guy that's very capable. This is an interesting fight, kind of a fight that both guys got to win, kind of on the same level. But who's going to pull it out? That's the question. Let's get into it. In the heavyweight division at UFC 305, you got Tai Tuivasa. He's back, 15-7, taking on Jairzinho Rosenstruck, who comes in at 14-5. Both guys stand 6'2". Rosenstruck getting up there. He's 36. Tuivasa is 31. Rosenstruck 3-inch reach advantage. He fights right-handed. Tuivasa fights left-handed. Both guys just shy of 4 significant strikes per minute. Neither guy really looking to land takedowns. So it's going to be a fight based on stand-up and strike, activity, all that stuff. But, KO power is going to be a big factor in this one as well. Tai Tuivasa has struggled, man, losing 4 straight to Gan, Pavlovich, Volkov, and then Marcin Tybura. 4 straight finishes as well. His last win was against Derek Lewis by KO. That's wild. Rosenstrike, on the other hand, is coming off the win over Shamil Gaziev by KO. Lost to Jailton Almeida, who was surging at that time, by submission. And then prior to that, beat Chris Daukaus by KO. So he just ran into a tough fight against Jailton Almeida. So he still won 2 of the last 3. So, the thing that is tough here is Tuivasa just kind of falling off. I mean, he was at one point 15-3, had won several fights in a row, was climbing the ladder, and then bam, just fell off the cliff, if you will. And I think that's going to continue here. I think Rozenstruik's going to ride that wave of momentum coming off the win. Looking at Tuivas's last 4 losses, right? He's going to go in there quick and try to get a big finish. And I think he does sometime in the first round. But even if it goes to a decision, I still think he wins. He'll win round 1 for sure. Might lose round 2, but will win round 3 if it does go that far. I'm just playing this out of my mind, and that's the way I see it going. So Rozenstruik gets the win here, in my opinion, either by KO in the first or unanimous decision based on significant strikes. He'll move to 15-5 here, in my opinion, heavyweight division, UFC 305. Yeah, and these are the fights you like because it's like you just know something good is going to happen.
Boo! Woo!
Yeah, you just know something good is going to happen, and I got to lean towards Rozenstruik to get the job done. I mean, this guy has KO power, so does Bam Bam, but as soon as he gets hit, he's in trouble, man.
Whoa!
He's in trouble. You know, when he's winning, he looks good. He jumps over the octagon, jumps on top of the octagon, ends up grabbing a shoe, does the shoey, all this. But then all of a sudden, he's lost 4 in a row.
Oh, no!
Yeah. So that momentum is totally stopped. That momentum is gone now. And he's back to, hey, you got to prove yourself, man. Are you really a legitimate heavyweight fighter? You got to prove yourself. That's the bottom line. But I think he loses 5 in a row. And he's working his way outside the UFC real quick, or he's getting ready to get close to Tony Ferguson's losing record of 8. Right? He's getting close to losing 8 in a row. I mean, he's halfway there, man. So hopefully for Bam Bam, he can get the job done. Now, in fight 3, this is arguably other than the main event, this is arguably the fight of the night. Mateusz Gamrot, 24-2, takes on the always tough Dan Hooker, 23-12. Don't let those 12 losses fool you, though. This is a guy that's very capable of winning this fight, but Mateusz Gamrot has been very tough in his career. I mean, when you're in 26 fights and you only lose 2, it's hard to see that type of guy lose, but you never know. Let's get into that one. In the lightweight division at UFC 305, oh baby, you got Mateusz Gamrot taking on Dan Hooker. This is the best division in the UFC, obviously, lightweight division. Every fight is important, and this one is no different. Mateusz Gamrot, 24-2. That's ridiculous. Dan Hooker, 23-12. Gamrot's a slight favorite. Well, 2-1 favorite in this fight. Let's see if it holds up. Dan Hooker, 2 inches taller at 6 feet. He's 34. Gamrot, 33. Seems like Gamrot's younger, but he's not. Dan Hooker has a 4-inch reach advantage. He's a switch stance fighter. Gamrot fights southpaw or left-handed. Hooker more active, 5.1 significant strikes per minute to 3.1 for Gamrot. But the takedown game is completely the opposite. Gamrot lands nearly 2 takedowns per round. Dan Hooker, he wants to keep the fight standing where he's got an advantage. Plus, Gamrot's got a 90% takedown defense, so forget about it. Now, the Gamer is coming off wins against RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, by decision. Took him down 11 times, and that's hard to believe. KO'd Rafael Fiziev and won a split decision over Jalen Turner. That's how good Jalen Turner, a.k.a. the Tarantula, is. Gamrot did lose to Beneil Dariush. That was at a time in 2022 when Dariush was on the rise. But since then, he's won 3 in a row. Dan Hooker, a.k.a. the Hangman, 80% takedown defense. He's going to need every bit of that in this fight. He, too, beat Jalen Turner by split decision. That's probably why they're booking this fight. Before that, he beat Claudio Puelles. He did lose to Arnold Allen by KO in a featherweight division fight. So here's the deal. You got a striker versus a takedown specialist in Mateusz Gamrot, right? So then you look at the striker's takedown defense. Dan Hooker, very good, right? But the odds makers are right on this one. They have it for Gamrot because of what he did against RDA. You look at RDA's history and you're like, how did he get taken down 11 times by Gamrot? I mean, it's just relentless. And Gamrot's found a way to win fights this way. It may not be pretty. It may not always be a KO, but he learned his lesson against Beneil Dariush, right? He learned his lesson. He did have 4 takedowns in that fight, but he got outstruck. So he's like, you know what? 4 takedowns isn't enough. I need 11, right? Or 6, like he did against Arman Tsarukyan. So that's the key to victory. He will do that in this fight. He will take down Dan Hooker at will. Forget the 80% takedown defense because Gamrot's going to keep coming. I like him to win this fight by decision, possible submission, but I'm not so sure on that. I believe it's more likely to go to a decision for Gamrot here, in my opinion. He'll move to 25-2 with the victory. Lightweight division, UFC 305. Yeah, and you got to love this fight. Lightweight division is the best.
Yes! Yes!
No doubt about it. And it's a tough pick. But, you know, I've been watching Mateusz Gamrot since the beginning. I like this guy. He's very capable of rising to the top. Yeah, he had the setback against Dariush, but now Dariush is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but he's fallen off very quickly, you know, which we've seen guys do as they get up into the higher 30s. So now all of a sudden, Mateusz has just got to keep winning fights like this. He beat Jalen Turner, which I think I had Jalen Turner. I'm sure I had Jalen Turner winning that fight because I'm a big Jalen Turner fan, and it was close. But Mateusz Gamrot proved himself in that one and got the victory. So you got to go with him in this fight. Now, as you work your way up into the co-main event, at least for right now, this is an interesting one. Kai Kara France versus Steve Erceg. And Steve Erceg just fought for the title, right? And couldn't get the job done. But Kai Kara France is 24-11, staple of the division, right? Always a problem. Steve Erceg 12-2. I mean, these are two guys that are very capable of winning this fight, as you see up and down this card. You've heard me say that a lot in this show, right? This is another one where it could really go either way. So let's get into it right now. In the flyweight division at UFC 305, you got a good one here. Kai Kara France comes in at 24-11, taking on Steve Erceg, who comes in at 12-2, and coming off his first loss in his UFC career, I might add. Now, Erceg's going to be taller by 4 inches. He's 5'8". Kara France 5'4". He's 28. France 31. France has a 1-inch reach advantage. Both guys stand right-handed. Both guys right at 4.5 significant strikes per minute. Steve Erceg leads the way on the ground with more than 1 takedown over the course of 3 rounds. But Kara France, 88% takedown defense. Makes it interesting. But he's coming off back-to-back losses. Split decision versus Amir Albazi, and a KO loss to Brandon Moreno. His last win was against Askar Askarov by unanimous decision. That was in 2022. So it's been over 2 years since he's had a victory. Now, Steve Erceg on the other end, 60% takedown defense. That'll be okay here. He lost a decision to Alexander Pantoja. Just couldn't defend the takedowns, right? 9 takedowns, and he trailed 125-111. Versus Pantoja, but it's amazing that he gave up 8 more takedowns and only trailed by 14 significant strikes. So it goes to show you he's not far off. Just has to work on the takedown defense. Before that, he KO'd Matt Schnell, beat Alessandro Costa by decision, and also beat David Dvorak by decision. And this is going to be one of those interesting fights because Erceg's not as good as Pantoja, but is he better than Kara France? I mean, the guy's got 11 losses, but a wealth of experience. And I think this is one of these fights where Steve Erceg is going to feel a little pressure. He's got to win this fight. He can't fall off that quickly. He's still just 28 years old. He's on the rise, right? I don't think he's going to get knocked down here by Kara France, even though Kara France has 35 fights under his belt compared to 14 for Erceg. Look for a potential slow start in the first round, but Erceg will pick it up later in the round and also win rounds 2 and 3. So I think he's going to get the decision victory here, in my opinion, both in significant strikes and control time. Although Kara France can defend the takedowns. But in my opinion, Steve Erceg gets the win by decision that way to move to 13-2, flyweight division, UFC 305. And I say by decision because a lot of times these fights in the flyweight division go to a decision. It makes it very tough to predict. And I would honestly say behind the lightweight division, it's the second hardest division to make predictions because 1 through 10, there's not much difference. Pantoja's risen to a different level, but 1 through 10, there's not much of a difference. But we'll lean towards Steve Erceg to get the job done here. I just don't, you know, he's 28 years old. He's going to be better and better every time out, and to fight for the title this early in his career is a good thing. But again, the pressure's on because you just fought for the title. You can't lose the next time out. You're not trying to go down. You're trying to get back to the title, right? And next time he faces Pantoja, if he can keep winning, he's going to be 30, 31 years old. He's going to be right in the prime. And, you know, he could still win the title. That's how good Steve Erceg is. I mean, this guy could still win the title. Make no mistake about it. Now it's time, ladies and gentlemen. Get involved in the chat room. Get involved in the poll. Who do you like to win in the main event between Dricus Du Plessis and Israel Adesanya? This is the fight we've been waiting for a long time. Now, let's just go back to how we got here, right? Two close fights leading up to this. You had Adesanya versus Strickland. Adesanya was the champ. But this is how that fight finished. Sean Strickland is walking around the octagon like this thing is already a victory, man. And what a performance by Sean Strickland. I mean, to me, he dominated this fight. 111 to 97 in significant strikes. Head strikes 77 to 24. I mean, that's the fight right there. Body shots 29-28. Izzy had a lot of leg strikes to keep it close, but that doesn't work in the judges' scorecards. 45-5 for Izzy, but they weren't really big. I mean, Sean Strickland dropped him in round 1. Ended up leading round by round, probably except round 2. It's going to be 49-46 in my opinion. In the last 20 seconds, Sean Strickland just talking crap. And we just witnessed the biggest upset in championship history. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And both guys standing in the center of the octagon. And we're about to hear and new in a second. Wow. Adesanya knows he lost. Oh my gosh. It's unanimous. 49-46. Woo! Unbelievable. And new! Let's go! Wow, bro. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. At one point, you had Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, Francis Ngannou rule the top 3 divisions. And now you got 3 Americans up there. Sean Strickland, middleweight champion. Jamal Hill relinquished the belt, but he's still listed as a champion. And John Jones, heavyweight champion. Unbelievable. Sean Strickland walked into New Zealand and beat Israel Adesanya. Unbelievable. In dominating fashion. In dominating fashion, bro. Everybody's going to be shocked about this. Unbelievable. Sean Strickland is the middleweight champion of the world. Unfreaking believable, man. Wow. He's now 27-5, middleweight champion. And guess what? Du Plessis is coming and Hamza is coming. But right now, Sean Strickland rules the day here in New Zealand. Middleweight division at UFC 293. Yeah, so that's the way Adesanya fell, right? He lost to Pereira, got the belt back by KO in Pereira, which is still hard to believe. Then he loses the belt to Sean Strickland. Then Sean Strickland, as we said there, would have to take on Dricus Du Plessis. And this is how that fight turned out. If I had to make a prediction for how this is going to go, I'm going to say Sean Strickland's going to win the decision. It's about to get real. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's going to be split. 48-47 Strickland. Oh my God. 48-47 Du Plessis. Oh my God. 48-47. Oh my God. Oh my God. And no! Let's go! Let's go! Yes! Yes! Dricus just stole the belt, baby. Dricus just stole the belt. What'd I tell y'all, man? We'll take the 6-6 night with the 2-0 in the main event on the year. Let's go. Wow. Wow. Dricus Du Plessis steals the belt with a split decision. And just that drama for those last 5 seconds might have made the whole night worth it. I don't know. But Dricus stole the belt. He's 21-2, and he says, hey, I'm not fighting Hamza, so forget about it. We'll talk about that next week. But for right now, Dricus Du Plessis is pumped. He stole the belt, and Sean Strickland has fallen. Despite dominating the stats, Sean Strickland has fallen. South Africa is going crazy right now to have a middleweight champion here at UFC 297. And so you see both of those came down to a decision. It's not like, and Strickland dominated Adesanya. No, make no mistake about it. Du Plessis barely beat Sean Strickland. So you got 3 guys up there that could all win the belt on any given day, and that's why this fight is so interesting between Du Plessis and Adesanya, because either we got a merry-go-round situation where guys are just going to be trading the belts on and off, or you're going to have Du Plessis solidify himself as the true champion of the division. That's just how it's going to go. So, listen, the time has come. Let's get into the main event prediction. Dricus Du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya right now. In the middleweight division for the middleweight division title, your main event at UFC 305. We finally get it. Dricus Du Plessis comes in at 21-2 and takes on the former champ, Israel Adesanya, who comes in at 24-3. So both guys with ridiculous records. That's why they're either the champ or the former champ. Now, Adesanya 3 inches taller at 6'4". He's 34, right? Left the prime window, but still in his prime if you ask me. Du Plessis right in the middle. He's 30 years old. Adesanya, 4-inch reach advantage. Both guys switch stance fighters. Should be interesting. But Du Plessis much more active. 6.5 significant strikes per minute to 4 per minute for Adesanya. But Adesanya tends to slow his opponents down. That's the key here. Now, in terms of takedowns, Du Plessis gets like 1 every round. Adesanya, not so much. So on paper, with the numbers, Du Plessis dominates in takedowns and doubles up Adesanya nearly in significant strikes per minute. Now, Du Plessis has been on a roll. Hasn't lost in the UFC yet, beating Sean Strickland by split decision. Robert Whittaker, 2nd round KO. Derek Brunson beat him. Beat Darren Till, Brad Tavares, Trevin Giles, and Marcus Perez on the lead up, right? He's got 4 KOs in those 7 wins. Incredible. Now, on the other hand, Adesanya, 77% takedown defense. So he tends to defend the takedowns and slow his opponents down. Coming off the loss to Sean Strickland by unanimous decision. Strickland obviously won the fight easily, 137-94 on the feet, no takedowns. He did beat Alex Pereira by KO. That was incredible. Lost to Alex Pereira by KO. So you see he loses by KO, comes back and wins by KO to snatch the title back, and then loses it to Sean Strickland, who's waiting in the wings, right? Before that, he defended it 3 times in a row against Jared Cannonier, Robert Whittaker, and Marvin Vettori. And I can tell you now, this prediction is absolutely tough. Because on paper, Dricus Du Plessis should win this fight pretty easily. But Adesanya performs at his best when he doesn't have the belt, as we saw against Alex Pereira, when he's fighting for a reason, and therefore it's hard to go against him. I mean, I really like Dricus Du Plessis as well, but I'm not sure if I've ever gone against Adesanya. I'm sure I have at some point, but I can't remember, and I'm not going against Adesanya here. I like Israel Adesanya to shock the world and win the belt back and move to 25-3. Yes, his days are numbered, but this is not that day. He wins likely by a long fight, long decision, 5 rounds, long fight, but wins by decision, 3 rounds to 2, unanimous, in my opinion, to get the victory and steal the belt back here, middleweight division, for the middleweight title at UFC 305. Wow. Very tough fight to predict, man. But we got to go with Adesanya. Until he's beaten, if he loses 2 in a row, then maybe he's finally finished. But we still got him up there on the do list. You see, Adesanya 7, Du Plessis 8. right? And the middleweight champion, whoever comes out of this thing, should be much higher than 7 or 8. But because you got a merry-go-round situation, you got these two at 7 and 8. You got Strickland like at 11 or 12. He's not done yet by any means. He's probably going to fight the winner of this fight. And as you look at the rest, Hamza, number 1, he's got a fight scheduled against Whitaker. John Jones, we're still waiting on a date. Pereira's off for the short term. Islam Makhachev, injured, supposed to fight Sarukian. Many people say he's scared of that fight. I don't think he's scared, but definitely going to be a tough fight. You got Sean O'Malley. He's got a fight scheduled. Shavkat Rakhmonov may very well be fighting Bilal Muhammad for the title. Then 9 and 10, you got that scheduled. Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria. So the dude list is heating up, and basically 7 out of 10 in the top 10 are scheduled to fight right now. We just got to get caught up on Hamza, Sean O'Malley, and I'm sure John Jones will be scheduled here in the near future. If he's not already scheduled, I might have missed it. But that's the way the dude list looks right now, and you know, it's just going to get more and more interesting as we continue through the end of the year. You know how the end of the year is. It heats up as we go forward. It just gets better and better and better. But listen, that's going to do it for the prediction show. I'm excited about this week. You should be too. Make sure you check out all the prediction videos. Leave your comments because we're going to be back this week. Already a lot of comments, but make sure you get yours in there. We'll post it and go through a long Q&A on the next podcast for sure, as we kind of review this episode and get into what you as the fans think is going to happen. Sometimes you agree with me, sometimes you don't. So it is what it is. And we'll get into those comments and react to them because everyone's going to have their own belief in what's going to happen this week. But I just believe Adesanya is going to get the job done. And man, I would love to see Hamza beat Whitaker and fight Adesanya for the title. That would be like a dream come true. But until that happens, we just got to wait. But Adesanya's got to get through Du Plessis first, and that's no easy task. I would not be surprised one bit if Du Plessis gets the win. But listen, that's a wrap. For now, this is your boy Chris Cross. I hope you have a great day, and God bless. As always, peace.